Hello children, we were discussing about the abiotic factors. In the abiotic factors we have discussed all three, that is temperature we have discussed, light and the water. Today we will discuss about the soil. See, soil, it is the topmost layer of the earth. It covers the earth. And soil, it is formed from the withering of the rock. It is formed from the withering of the rock and the decomposition of the organic matter. And you know that organic matter is decomposed by the decomposers, that is microorganisms. And it will form humus. The formation of humus by the microorganism is called humification. It is called humification. Fine. And the scientific study of the soil is called pedology. Definition of the pedology is scientific study of the soil. So this pedology, it deals with the origin, formation and geographical distribution of the soil. So that is from how the soil is formed and what all important contents are there in the soil, the quality of the soil, all we will study in the pedology. Next, this soil, as it is the topmost cover of the earth, many organisms like fauna and flora, it lives on the earth. It provides salt, mineral salts, water and anchorage to the plant. See, plants, they get water from the soil, they get mineral salts from the soil, and also it will provide grip to the plant body. Fine. And the distribution of the flora and the fauna, it depends upon the characteristic features of the soil, just now what we have discussed. The characters like the origin, formation and the temperature range of the soil and water holding capacity of the soil is also very important. Water holding capacity we have discussed in the previous class, and also the pH and the aeration of the soil is also very important for the survival of the plants and the animals. And then most of the organisms, they require acidic conditions, especially plants. Majority of the plants will grow in acidic media like 5.5 to 6.5 pH. Fine. And some others need alkaline to neutral condition. And I told majority of the plants, they require acidic condition. Now topography also affect the distribution of the plants and animals. What do you mean by topography? Topography, it is the physical features which are present on the earth. Physical features like the hills, valleys, plains and the distribution of the river, ponds, etc. All the physical features which are there on the earth is the topography. So this much information is sufficient. And about the physical features you have read in geography in the high school. So what we have read here in this class, in this duration, soil, about the soil. Soil is also important abiotic factor. It is also very important abiotic factor because all the life is found in the soil and on the soil. It is found even in the water also, air also you will find, but majority of the living organisms are found in the soil. So this soil, it covers the topmost layer of the earth and it is formed from the organic matter and from the withering of the rock. Rock withers due to the atmospheric conditions. Like when the temperature will be high and when suddenly in the winter it will come down and sometimes it will rain. So these conditions will make the rocks to expand and contract. During the expansion and contraction, the layer of the rocks will get withered. And sometimes some of the plants like the lichens, they will grow on the rock. When they will grow on the rock, year after year when they will grow, they are responsible for the erosion of the rock. That is how the minerals, the content of the rock will get mixed with the soil. And apart from that, Many living organisms will be living in the soil, like maybe microorganisms and many small to bigger organisms will be surviving on the earth, in the soil, on the soil. And when they die, where do they go? They will be mixed with the soil. How they will get mixed with the soil? Through the decomposition of the microorganisms. The microorganisms, they decompose the living body, it may be plant or the animal, and then it will, when the things will get completely decomposed, they will mix with the soil and enrich. It will alter the quality of the soil, and thus the quality will become enriched with the humus, that is the organic matter. Such a soil is very good. It will become fertile, of course. Such a soil is very good for the growth of the plants, for the survival of the organisms. Fine. That is how these conditions, that is the quality of the soil, will affect the distribution of the plants and the animals. If the quality of the soil is good, then the plants will grow very nicely. When the plants will grow in a good way, naturally it will support other living organisms. Thus the flora and the fauna of a particular region will be enriched. Right? That is how soil affects the biotic factors, or you can say the life. So the pedology, you have to remember, it is the study of the soil. Humification, it is the formation of the humus from the organic matter with the help of the microorganisms is called the humification. Fine. And topography, it is the physical features which are present in that particular geographical area. What are physical features you will see on the earth? All those are included in the topography. So here to cite a simple example, I gave the presence of mountains, hills, valleys, plains, even you can take the rivers. All these features also will affect the distribution of flora and the fauna. Now till now we have completed the abiotic factors. Now let us go to the response of the living organisms, that is how the living organisms will respond to the abiotic factors. Let us know that, okay? Now let us know the response of the organisms towards the abiotic factors. So organisms will respond to the abiotic factors in mainly two ways, that is the regulate and the conform. The way by which the response to the abiotic factors is in two ways, that is the regulate and the conform. So as the external environmental conditions are maintained constant, you know that the temperature or the humidity or rain, whatever it is, if it exceeds than the normal, then the tolerance range of all the living organisms on the earth, something hazard will happen. Like if the rain will exceed than the normal, all the organisms will suffer. It results in the flood, loss of everything, nature, natural resource, organisms, many features, etc. Likewise, only temperature also. As the external environmental conditions are maintained nearly constant, likewise the internal environment of a living organism is also maintained constant, and maintenance of constant internal environment is called homeostasis. One more question, fine. What do you mean by homeostasis? It is the maintenance of constant internal environment. This constant internal environment is maintained by all the different organ systems of the body, and that is how it will permit the effective metabolic activities and the physiological functions of the body. The homeostasis is nearly maintaining in our internal environment in the body by different organs. That is why all the metabolic activities of the body are going very smoothly, and the living organism is also surviving very comfortably. If something goes wrong with this, then we will be suffering with the diseases. The body will not work in a normal way. It is very important. Fine. Why homeostasis is very important? It is important for the metabolic activities, of the organism for the normal functioning and for the normal survival, you can say. Fine. So I told you that the organisms will respond in two ways. It may be physiological way or it may be behavioral way. So the one is the regulate and the other one is the conform. So regulate, the meaning itself says that some of the organisms have got the mechanism to regulate the internal environmental conditions. They can regulate their functions. Mainly in the regulate, we will take the example of thermoregulation and osmoregulation. These two are very important and we can easily understand. That is how, and now we were talking about the regulate. Fine. Regulate, I told you that some of the organisms have got the capacity of regulating their body functions. Right. Here we are taking two examples, mainly the thermoregulation and osmotic concentration regulation. And these are maintained by the physiological means or by the behavioral means of our organism. So here we will be taking some examples, and these two we can cite some vertebrates and invertebrates as an example. Here we wrote some of the birds, mammals and few vertebrates and invertebrates will show the thermoregulation and osmoregulation. So we can explain thermoregulation very effectively in human beings because we will experience it. We can understand it very clearly how the thermoregulation will occur in the humans. It is a 2-mark question which can be asked in the annual exam. You know that we are homeotherms. What do you mean by homeotherms? Homeotherms are those organisms which can maintain their body temperature constant. Fine. Such animals are called as homeotherms. Human beings are homeotherms, so their body temperature will remain constant. Our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. Our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. You know that on the earth, according to the season, the atmospheric conditions will vary. You know, the day and night and the variation in the season is due to the revolution and rotation of the earth. Fine. When the earth will rotate on its axis, we will be getting day and night. The length of the day and night varies according to the season. This knowledge you have. And the changes in the season is due to the revolution of the earth. That is, earth will move on its axis and along with that it will take the rotation around the sun also. And this revolution of the earth is responsible for the change in the season on the earth. So in different season we'll be experiencing different like temperature, and we will get winter season, we'll get rainy season. Fine. So in the summer, you know that in the summer the environmental temperature will be high. It is more than 37 degrees Celsius. Fine. During that time, our body will sweat profusely, it will sweat. During this sweating, the body will be losing the water in the form of droplets. The water droplets will get collected on the skin and this water will get evaporated. The evaporation of the water, or we can say sweat, this sweat results in the cooling effect and thus it will bring down the body temperature. That is how our physiology will not allow the body temperature to exceed the 37 degrees Celsius. So during this, what will happen? The blood vessels towards the peripheral region will get dilated and the body will lose water in the form of sweat, and that sweat will get evaporated due to the temperature which is there outside, or we can feel the cold when you will sweat and sit under the fan. So that is how during the summer our body will regulate the temperature. Then opposite, during the winter, the outside temperature will be less than 37 degrees Celsius. Fine. The external temperature when it is less than 37 degrees Celsius. At that time you feel very cold. Fine. when you feel very cold, you will start shivering. Shivering will result in the production of the heat energy in the body. When heat energy is produced inside the body, the temperature rises. That is how the body temperature will remain constant during the winter. Actually, during winter, what will happen when it is very cold? When the outer environment is very cold, the blood vessels of the peripheral region will get constricted and the blood circulation will be more towards the inner side of the body, and the skeletal muscles, when they contract, we will just shiver. This contraction movement of the skeletal muscle will help in the generation of the energy. Fine. That heat energy will help us to increase the body temperature. So that is how during the winter and the summer, the body will maintain the temperature. Fine. So this one example is given in the book, and you can this can be asked in the annual exam for 2 marks, and it is a MCQ question also. Fine. Now let us go to the next method, that is confirm. Confirm. The meaning itself says confirm whether it is right or wrong, whether it is correct or not, like that. It will give a common meaning, it will give. So confirm. So here majority of the organisms, nearly 99% of the organisms, they don't have the capacity of regulating their thermoregulation, or you can say osmotic regulation. They can't regulate their body internal environment. So just up to certain extent they will regulate, they will tolerate. Beyond that, they will leave everything and they will just conform with the external environmental condition. How it will change in the external environmental condition? Likewise, only the organism's internal conditions also changes. That is how they will conform with the external environmental condition and then they will survive. Such organisms are called as conform. Fine. Here we can give the example of poikilotherms. Commonly we will say poikilotherms as cold-blooded animals. So these cold-blooded animals are the ectotherms. Ectotherm, the meaning itself says ecto, external, therm, temperature. So according to the external temperature, the body temperature of these organisms changes. Fine. So the cold-blooded animals will conform with the external environmental temperature, and according to that, to suit with the external environmental temperature, it changes its body temperature. That is the conform. So what we have discussed here, homeostasis, it is the maintenance of constant internal environment. For this, the body physiological functions or the behavioral activities, the behavior of an organism also helps. This behavior means what will come to your mind? I gave you the example of winter and the summer. See, apart from the physiological functions of the body, your brain also will give some messages to you during the winter and the summer. So during the winter, you never prefer to wear the thick cloths, dark colored cloths. You will wear the thin and the cotton cloths you prefer, and the light color you prefer. Why? You have got the sense that the light colors will reflect the sun rays, and cotton, which will not absorb much sun rays, and it has got a better capacity of absorbing the sweat also. Like this, your body will give you instructions, and it will say you that you should not go outside in the hot sun. If you happen to go outside, hold umbrella, walk in the shade. Like these instructions your brain will give, isn't it? And in the winter, it will give you information to wear the thick clothes, sweaters to keep yourself warm. Fine. So these are some of the behaviors which help the organism to survive according when the environmental conditions changes. So regulate. Some of the organisms have got the capacity of regulating their internal environment, and here we have discussed the body temperature as an example, and humans we have taken as an example, and we are homeotherms. Our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. In the summer we sweat, and the cooling effect is due to the evaporation of the sweat. And in this winter, we will shiver, and heat generated during shivering, that is skeletal muscles will actually help in the contraction. Fine. So it will generate the heat and that will keep the body temperature constant. And in the conform, we gave the example of the poikilotherms, which will conform with the external environmental condition and change its body temperature just to suit with the external temperature. Fine. Now let us go to the next one. Okay. Let me wipe the board. Well, thermoregulation in human beings we have studied, and thermoregulation, it is an energy expensive process. For the regulation of the body temperature, organism need to use energy. Fine. That is how you will not see bigger animals in the colder regions. The animals will be smaller and their body extreme parts also will be smaller, which we will deal in the adaptation. So likewise only the osmotic regulation will occur in some of the organisms. So plants and animals, I told already, they will conform with the external environment, then they will survive. So if these stressful conditions are going to exist for smaller duration or sometimes a little longer duration, the organisms will avoid these stressful conditions by two behavioral ways. The two behavioral ways are the migration and the suspension. Migration, the name itself indicates, that is the organisms during stressful period, they will migrate. They will move away from that place to the favorable region, that is more hospitable region, and they will come back when once the condition will return. So this process is called migration. What do you mean by migration? Movement of, usually birds will show this, even some fishes also will show. So the movement of animals from stressful area to the more hospitable area, and when the favorable conditions will return, again they will move back to their home place, and this is called the migration. Fine. So this migration is best explained by taking example of birds. We can take the birds as an example. Even this is exhibited by certain other animals also, but the familiar one are the birds. So the rhythmic movement of certain birds will be the best example. For example, Siberian crane, Arctic tern. We can give this example. Arctic tern, rhythmically from the Arctic region, they will move to the Antarctic region. Again, on return of favorable condition, they will move to the Arctic region. Likewise, Siberian crane, they will move from the Siberia to the Indian subcontinental region in the winter. And on the onset of summer, again they will go back to the Siberia. That is how the Siberian crane will show the migratory movement. And you already have little knowledge about the migration of the birds. During migration, the birds will keep in their mind the landmarks. And according to that they will move. And you know the famous bird watcher of India, Salim Ali Khan. He's a great bird watcher and recorded many things in his book, like that you will study in coming periods. Now every year, Rajasthan's national park, that is the famous Keolado National Park of Bharatpur in Rajasthan, will host thousands of birds. It will host thousands of birds coming from Siberia and extremely cold regions of northern area. So this Keolado, in the Keolado National Park, you will see many migratory birds. It will host many migratory birds during the winter. When the conditions will become favorable, again you will not see any birds over there in the national park in Bharatpur. So these are the best example for the migration. So what we have studied till now, you have studied soil as a biotic factor. Then you have studied some important feature. The soil is also called an edaphic factor. It is also called as an edaphic factor. The character of the soil, the characteristic feature of the soil will decide the distribution of fauna and the flora. Fine. And then you have studied the response of organisms to abiotic factors, that is regulate and conform. Regulates will regulate their physiological functions by behavioral or the physiological means, and conform, they will just conform with the external conditions and then survive. Fine. And now you are studying how the organisms, if the stressful conditions are going to exist for even a shorter duration or for the longer duration, how the organisms will cope up with that you are studying. Under that I told one behavioral heading, that is the migration, movement of animals from the stressful condition to the more hospitable area. Again, on return of favorable condition, they will come back to their home place. And next we are dealing with the suspension. So suspension, here the body activities are suspended for a period. On return of favorable condition, again the body functions are regained. That we will deal now. In coming period, let us go for the suspension. Fine, children. Hope today's discussion, whatever we did, you understood. Okay. Bye.